Zoological Park has been confronted with some accreditation concerns due to a drop in attendance as a result of a reduction in revenues. And this morning I have on the agenda a resolution requesting this board to support the endeavors of the zoo. Greta, I gave you the resolution to stamp. Could you give it back, please? I won't read everything that's listed in the resolution, but just enough to convey.
Mr. President, Supervisor Calhoun asked Beth to come to the board meeting today. Could we join them and instead of having her come up on my item, we can bring her up now and we can do the resolution and hear from the director at the same time?
Right.
That'd be fine.
Okay. The resolution reads, the Board of Supervisors of Hinds County, Mississippi supports the valuable contributions the Jackson Zoological Park makes to the care and conservation of captive exotic animals, as well as their important contributions to research, public education, and recreation. Whereas the zoo serves up to 167,000 visitors annually, with 47% from the Jackson metro area, 43% from other Mississippi counties, and 10% from other states, with more than 90% of its visitors being families with children under 12, with their accompanying parents or grandparents. The zoo serves every segment of the population, creating a wonderfully diverse audience. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Hinds County Board of Supervisors expresses a renewed dedication of support to the Jackson Zoological Park and their efforts in the preservation of animal, wildlife, and nature, and an invigorated attempt at fostering and preserving conservation projects. Moreover, we resolve to encourage the citizens of Hinds County to engage in programs, activities, and ceremonies that encourages public participation and awareness of the importance of the zoo in wildlife conservation. It is the sincere hope of this board that the Jackson Zoo will continue to operate in its present location, becoming a catalyst for change and the renewal of the surrounding community. So resolved and ordered this the 19th day of August 23rd, and I so move.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? Question for Mr. Stokes.
Mr. President, if I could, I'd like to ask the director a few questions first.
Okay.
Thank you.
And when she finishes, I would like for the board there a letter pledge support for $10,000.
Yes.
Now, was that $10,000 coming from your reparation fund?
No, it will be coming from our 2014 fiscal year budget.
Okay. Mr. Stokes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bev, again, I want to thank you for coming. Some years back, we had a conversation about the zoo, and we had a conversation. At that point, I suggested that the zoo spread out of the gates, and let's try to get an aquarium over on the other side of Park Place, Texas Avenue, where you got abandoned properties and things of that nature. And I think if I remember right, you said that the city owned the zoo and the property. And I said, I hope that your board would either do a study and bring it to the city to make those needed changes. It didn't happen, and I hear people complaining about the surroundings of the zoo. I live a rock away from the zoo. When I grew up as a young man, we used to get a lion's roar. You know, that's a long time ago, but at the zoo, you had those kind of animals. The lions roared and those kind of things, which probably happen now. We got to do something to help the zoo. That's not the question. Everybody know that. There's a plan to bring the, should I have the correct, medical corridor down Woodrow Wilson. Part of the plan and every presentation they have made was the zoo and the golf course. Now we hear people saying, well, let's move the zoo to, what's the name of it?
There's the only thing I know is there's, in talking with the mayor of Jackson, there are 2 locations that have been presented, and I don't know if that has actually been formally presented, but 2 locations.
We only heard one, and that's the one over off of Lakeland.
Yes. Well, the other location is that, and I don't know if this has been verified, is the Lakeland Drive location and or another county.
Okay, now, this is, you don't have to worry about the zoo move to another county because it's Jackson Zoo, and we have a contract with y'all and all of that. So, the issue with Lakeland Drive is that, and I rode through there Saturday, going to see the activity at the museum. It's a shame that we're getting to this level in this city that people saying they don't want to come to the zoo because it's run down or it's black people over there. I don't think that y'all have a robbery or killing or anything like that at the zoo, but perception is there, I understand. But at the same time, if you move to Lakeland, then a lot of people not going to go to Lakeland because they don't feel comfortable at Lakeland. Now, 2 issues now. One is the medical corridor. Whether the zoo, the medical corridor, and the city can work together to make this a reality. Because the golf course and the zoo was part of the building blocks for the medical corridor. If we're going to have people coming from all over the United States and all over the world for this medical corridor, like they're saying. Now, in terms of the neighborhood, you know, anybody been to the Bronx Zoo in New York know that that neighborhood is worse than where our zoo is located, and it's steady growing. So we know the neighborhood is not a major issue when it comes to zoos. Now, how do we help you not lose accreditation? That's the issue I think we want to deal with today. At another meeting, another time, we can deal with these issues about safety and neighborhood. Because I still think an aquarium, that's what we need on the other side of the street. Because we take young people on trips all the time to Atlanta, to New Orleans, and we go to the aquarium. Young people love it. Older people love aquariums. Aquariums are good, but at the same time, we got to do more with the zoo we have now because it's kind of outdated and it's not as modern. You know, some people suggest the train. Let's take the train through the zoo instead on the outside of the zoo so that, you know, people can see more and do more. And finally, I've always suggested a free day. You know, Tuesday might be like, let's have a free day where people who can't afford it can come to the zoo. Let's get everybody on board with the zoo. Thank you, and I'll be glad to hear your response.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes, and Mr. President, Board Supervisor. Thank you also for the resolution, Supervisor Calhoun. I always enjoy an opportunity to talk about the zoo, so you have to watch when you give me a soapbox to address what's going on at our Jackson Zoo. I also want to introduce, we have our board president with me today, Mr. Eric Strassner as well. The zoo is indeed struggling. It's been a nonprofit since about the mid-'80s. It is on city property. What we've experienced is a drop of attendance from about 7 years ago, about 180,000, now to last year, about 117,000. One good thing that is happening this year, we are seeing, compared to last year, an increase again. We have an increase in comparison of about another 20,000 visitors. I think it's the splash pad. I think that in today's zoo, you want your families to enjoy all types of activities. It's not just looking at animals, even though animals are the main focus. You need to have special activities, and also in the Mississippi hot summers, we found the splash pad was the best thing. So we hope that with that continued investment, we can continue to do new things for children and families as well. The accreditation issue is a big concern for us. The number one thing that our accreditation team looks at when they come is, are you sustainable? Is funding there? Is Jackson ready to keep a zoo? I obviously vote very much so with them that yes, I think Jackson wants a zoo. I think also that the city is going to rally and increase a bit of its support so I can take that in front of the AZA Commission when I appear before them on September the 8th and share that as well. They're just looking for solid signs of continued support and that we can erase the debt that we carry. Over the last 7 years, every time we missed objections of attendance, we added debt year after year. We want to erase that debt with the city's support. We're looking for city support to do repairs and improvements. I appreciate what Hinds County already does with a lot of our improvement work. And the more support, letters, information, and also funding that I can take in front of that commission, that is how we'll hang on to accreditation. That's the main thing the board is looking at right now. We also are in the midst of a study with a consultant that'll go on for quite some time where we've looked at options and we continue to look at those options. Expansion at our current site is indeed one of those options. Looking at possible other sites, again, just an option. But the zoo has no plans to close or no plans to move. We need to continue with business as usual in the next year or so.
Okay. Let me do this. Let me go ahead and vote on the resolution. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Is there any other questions, comments, or statements from the board as it relates to this issue?
Just one final thing. Somewhere they brought up the issue of saying Ms. Wilson was not a member of that board, and I ran her down, and I know when I pointed her to Ward 3, she was excited, and she said she's still a member of the board, and that she comes to meetings and everything else. And I said it was reported somewhere that Ward 3 didn't have a member on the board. She said that's not true. So I guess I need to ask you to verify that Ms. Wilson is still an active member of the board.
Yes, Serena is a very active member of the board. We have 3 spots from city appointments still open, and that's 2, 6, and 5.
Not 3.
Not 3. No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hunter, you have something, or?
You indicated there was other option sites. What site would be an option, and how much property? Because I understand that some of the animals you no longer can keep there because you didn't have enough space. I don't know whether it was the elephant or...
The elephant, what our issue was there is that we could not keep a herd. Again, this was in accreditation time. We could only keep 2.
Okay.
So it was indeed not being able to raise the $10 million to expand where we currently were. When I say looking at other sites, again, we're looking at, are we going to be a 30-acre zoo, a 50-acre zoo? But one thing that is definite is we are staying in Jackson. We are not looking at moving outside of it.
Because also I look at the zoo as a major economic impact. And, I know trends and time change and move and change is hard to adapt sometimes. But how would we fund moving to another site if that came down to that, to sustain it?
If I could address that question, I'm Eric Straisner, the board president.
Just speak a little bit closer to the
Yes, sir.
microphone.
Unlike the gentleman who sang this morning, I do need a microphone. I'm Eric Straisner. I'm the president of the board of the zoo, and I appreciate the question. Although, with respect, I would say the question is premature. We are not even analyzing what it would cost to move. What we are analyzing at this point is whether or not we can remain. And if showing the AZA we can be viable at the location where we are. The information that we have gathered is that for the metropolitan area our size, we should be attracting closer to 300,000 visitors. And right now we're at 117. This year obviously is an upward trend. So while there's a lot of chatter out there, obviously we're hearing it too, the chatter isn't necessarily coming from us, and I want the board to be very clear on that.
Thank you very much. We'll go back to Supervisor Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. President. In order to show additional support, I'm asking this board to grant the Jackson Zoological Park $10,000 to assist with pathway and walkway in the entrance area of the zoo. And I'm requesting that we set aside $10,000 in our 2014 fiscal year budget.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second.
Out of recreation fund, right, Mr. President?
I'm just joking. I see where you're going. Okay. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Keep up the word, man.
Thank you very much.
You can make it happen.
And
But then you went for accreditation a few years ago, right?
Every 4 to 5 years, yes.
Yeah.
And if you have a card or somewhere you can leave, because I have some ideas that hopefully we can do some things together.
I have a card in the packet that she passed out, and
Thank you.
I'd love to hear it.
Thank you. Mrs. Calhoun, continue. Betty?
We will forward the letter to you.
Okay. Anything else? Ms. Calhoun?
No.